I do want to discuss officiating in the National Football League because I noticed it this week more than any other week in the NFL. This week, there was only two teams, the Miami Dolphins and the Jacksonville Jaguars, that scored over 30 points. And for a league that's supposed to be an offensive league, that is an issue because we don't have a lot of great defenses. San Francisco, Cleveland, the Jets, and obviously Philadelphia is very good. Buffalo, I would say, is very good. Kansas City, I would say, is very good. We've got six very good to elite defenses in the NFL. That's it. I would also say we have about six very good to elite offenses in the NFL. Buffalo, Miami, Philadelphia, Kansas City, San Francisco. The Chargers probably are up there. You know, your usual suspects. It's about six or seven. Maybe Minnesota has a good offense. You can make that argument. But it's about six. Cincinnati, I'm sorry. So put them up there, obviously, with Burrow and Chase. So it's the usual suspects. And then, you have your Baltimore's, that they're like above average or not great. I would put Dallas in that category. Then obviously you have your average and your below average. Like I'm not going to go for every team and rank their offense and defenses, but we know generally there's 6 to 7 very good offenses, there's 6 to 7 very good defenses, and the rest are sort of either very good or decent or just outright terrible for like one or two teams in the league. But if you notice this week in the NFL, the games went on a lot longer. Monday Night Football game last night obviously took almost 4 hours. Browns San Francisco took almost 4 hours. Eagles Jets, took almost 3.5 hours. There are games this weekend and throughout the entire league. I mean, good gracious, that Baltimore Tennessee game felt like it would never end. And if you notice, the games this weekend got longer. And I know for the Browns Niners specifically, there were 24 accepted penalties in that game. And there were obviously more declined penalties, 12 accepted on each team. That is a bad look. We know in the National Football League, there is holding on every play. And obviously, it was a big discussion in the Giants-Bills game Sunday night about whether it's PI, whether it's a hold. We saw some bad roughing the passer penalties called. Browns San Francisco game, we saw them miss, a foul where they called, the illegal contact of the head, personal foul, even though it wasn't to the head, it was to the shoulder. There's a lot missing right now in the National Football League. They're throwing a ton more flags on the defense side of the ball, whether it's holding on the defensive line, whether it's a lot of illegal contact. It almost feels like every pass play now, we are getting a lot more defensive holding or illegal contact. It's really slowing the game down. Offensively, we're getting a ton of ineligible man downfield from the RPOs. I know in college they give you up to 3 yards to the line of scrimmage. NFL, it's obviously only 1 yard. They are calling, in my opinion, defensive holding and ineligible man downfield on the offense way too much in the National Football League. We know there is holding on every single play on the offensive and defensive lines. We know corners want to get grabby. But what bothers me is when the NFL is not consistent. They will call all these flags that we've seen all game long for 3.5 quarters. And then with the game on the line, like we saw Giants Buffalo, a call that they have made all night long, and even worse calls they deemed holding. That play at the end of the game, they did not call holding. And this is why, as a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I said back in February, I was not upset as much about the Eagles losing the Super Bowl as I was upset about them making that call on a hold on James Bradbury because they did not call him for a holding, which was a significantly worse hold in the first quarter, but they get him in the fourth quarter. It's inconsistent officiating. When you are inconsistent as an official, and we say this across all weeks, whether they call fouls, a block or a charge, or what's contact in the NBA, whether it's balls or strikes in baseball, as an umpire, as an official, as a referee, your job is to make the correct call. Your job is also to be consistent. We know that there's human error. Everybody has different interpretation of what a foul is. Everybody has a different interpretation of what a ball or a strike is. Everybody has a different interpretation of what pass interference is or what holding is, or what's deemed illegal contact, the 5-6 yard gray area. We know in officiating there's a lot of gray area. What we ask is, don't decide in the middle of the game you're going to change your gray area, because it's affecting games, and by that it's affecting wins and losses. By that it's affecting seasons. By that it's affecting jobs, and it's affecting the product. The NFL, and I have praised the NFL, it is the best sports league in the world by far. It has its calendar set up. It's the most urgent. It's the best football on the planet. No matter how good college football can be with their quarterbacks, the NFL will always be the best football on the planet because it's the best in the world at what they do, professional athletes. Because of that, the officials have almost ruined the game. There were some games on Sunday, and listen, I've said at the time, some offenses in the NFL are just unwatchable. New England, the Giants at times, there are bad football teams. Arizona is going to become a bad football team, that we all like the way they play the first month of the season. We know they're not a very good football team. Chicago without Justin Fields is going to be a mess, obviously, offensively. We know there are some bad football teams out there, but you're making it hard to watch when how many times, especially like the Baltimore Tennessee game in London, there's 2 minutes left and it takes a half an hour. We discussed this a lot when it came to the NBA and their 2 minute rule. They'd go to the board, they review every play. 2 minutes, less 2 minutes of a basketball game took a half hour to 45 minutes to complete. It's turning into that in the National Football League. It's a bad look. I think they need to weigh out the roughing the passer calls. I think there were too many, where they protected the body weight once again of the quarterback. And for some of these guys, the Michael Pierce call, I thought was ridiculous. I mean, the big guy, all he does is touch him, bring him to the ground because he's a lot bigger than Malik Willis. They for the flag. I didn't understand that at all. I think that defensive coaches need to sort of teach these corners. Don't be holding the jersey at the top of the route every single play at the line of scrimmage, because that is going to be called a hold. So some of that is coaching, some of it is officiating. I think the NFL needs to have a game. It's always nice where you go for a game and it's 4 penalties on one side, 2 penalties on the other. There is no way we can go for every single NFL game, and every team this week it felt like was committing 15 penalties because every single pass play was either a illegal contact or a hold on either the defensive back or an offensive lineman or an eligible man downfield on a screen pass or an RPO. I understand it is a point of emphasis this year for the NFL. They do not want their defensive backs to cause holding because they want the offense to be freed up. They want explosive plays, and I get it. But what you've done by creating all these flags is you are actually preventing the offense from getting their big plays because they're so frustrated. They feel they can't go down the field. And so I think because of that, we are getting a lot more low-scoring games. As I said, Miami, Jacksonville, the only 2 teams in the whole league this week to put up over 30 points. It wasn't a great week of football, and it was one of the worst weeks in the NFL I've seen in a long time from an officiating standpoint. Dean Blandino, usually the head of officiating, he's now at Fox. Mike Pereira has been dealing with a back injury, who's also at Fox. I think that the NFL needs a new head of officiating. I think that they need a new emphasis because that was one of the worst officiatings I've ever seen across the league in my 25 plus years of life. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.